Two important things. Studies show that 76% or more the sports properties have no understanding of their fans. We hear this term a lot about the invisible fan and the anonymous fan and things like that.
All right, we're up and running here, Andrew. This is another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast. We're excited to dive into the world of fan engagement, really the billions left on the table, you might say, for these teams, leagues, organizations, and whatnot. And Andrew's leading the charge in that space. So thanks for joining us today, Andrew.
It's an honor to be here, Connor. Love what you do with Constant Sports. So this could be a very entertaining time together. So looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, appreciate that. And really, one of the more fascinating concepts nowadays, especially in sports, is these teams, leagues, etc. Really, I guess undervaluing, you might say, their most important asset, which is the fans, especially
Hmm.
at the pro level. I think it's kind of got lost, and so we connected back a while ago, and I love what you and the team are building, and
Thank
really
you.
solving one of the biggest problems we're seeing in sports right now. And so, for those listening here for the first time and meeting you, what are you guys trying to build? What are you creating exactly over at Fanways?
Well, we're building Fanwayz really from the thesis that as the greatest asset that sports properties really have, that they haven't valued and really leveraged, is the memories that they've helped create. In the many discussions that myself and my co-founders have had, as we've interviewed at the team and league level to get some good insights about kind of what the biggest problem is that needs to be fixed and kind of how to approach that is we hear over and over, people will say we're in the memory making business, and they really know that creating great experiences, creating memories that last forever, those are the bonds, those are the special connections that make being a sports fan so special. But right now, those memories are being defaulted to third party platforms which are benefiting from the eyeballs from, which means they're benefiting from, sponsor revenue, but they're also benefiting from data and insights on their fans, and they're also benefiting from that engagement. They've got them inside their own four walls, outside of the kind of the team's purview. So we have built knowing that for two important things. Studies show that 76% or more the sports properties have no understanding of their fans. We hear this term a lot about the invisible fan and the anonymous fan and things like that. And then also that there are studies showing that sports properties by I think by 2030 are really wanting to move kind of that initial fan engagement back into their own properties, even off of websites. But so apps are becoming kind of the cornerstone of their future success with fan engagement. And so we are building to be able to capture stories, to be able to capture memories inside a team's app. So they're controlling the experience. They're now turning that into an asset that they can repurpose in different ways. Now they can take historical content and allow fans to come in and share memories on that. But that all works to our benefit because what our kind of secret sauce is, we are taking all that information and trying to build more emotional data on the fans. We're trying to get down into the real core human elements, the human connections of fandom, and of course, with all the talk around customization and personalization, it's going to have to go deeper than, hey, Andrew, thank you for buying tickets to this event. Here's 10% off of your next purchase. I mean,
Yeah.
that's customization right now, but it's going to have to go deeper than that. And we're trying to help sports properties, one, collect these assets, being able to find new ways of generating revenue from that, uh, upping year-round engagement, especially with a growing global fan base. But more importantly, is that we want sports properties to truly understand the why behind fans. What's the motivation behind fans?
I love it, especially a few of the topics in there. And so, do you think we'll see? You mentioned the app creation. So, would it be like the Los Angeles Rams just have one app, and then you can go through there, and then Fanways would kind of flow into that, or would it be kind of
Yeah,
parallel?
we that's a great question. We integrate our job is to integrate directly into the app experience. So it's seamless. We're private labels, so it's just we want to be in there. We want to be the one being able to capture the content, but do it in a structured way. Because right now, social is just free flowing. Whatever's out there is out there. So we're built to where the content actually nest under different sponsored campaigns, so you can see different campaigns. So it's not just everything thrown in at once. So one that helps with organization, it helps with relevancy, it also helps with search and discovery. So it's a cleaner kind of experience than social is right now. But yeah, the idea is that people want to live inside. If they're fans, they want to commiserate with other fans. There's
Yeah.
if I'm putting something out there that's special to me, I don't want a bot, I don't want a troll from another team or something to come in and say something negative in a thread about something that's important to me. I want to do that with people that appreciate it and value it. And of course, memories. The great thing about memories, it's those are the things we want to relive. That social. We're so conditioned just to kind of put something out about in the moment and then we move on. We hope for virality, at some level, but for a lot of it, it's just here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm doing, and we kind of move on. Memories is something you want to go back to and relive and re-engage, and that also opens up more opportunity for people to come in and add their memories in on top and kind of keep that engagement going.
Yeah, agreed, and I think it kind of goes into the, like you said, the fan engagement and what's going next. And
Mhm.
one of the times we were talking, it was like when you buy season tickets or whatnot, and they send you an email, hey Connor, thanks for buying season tickets. Like I said, here's 10% off. Here's a box or a T-shirt or whatever, and then
Right.
they don't talk to you until the season's over, and it's,
Mhm.
hey Connor, you want to renew it?
Mhm.
And so I
Mhm.
think kind of that middle, like you're saying, that memory making, and really building that in, but then also the off season.
Yeah.
What are the fans doing in the off season? And the teams totally, lose kind of the fan for, I mean, 4 months out of the year.
No, you're exactly right, and I'm very blessed to have two great co-founders who were executives on the ticketing side in Major League Baseball and the NHL, and of course having consulted with other organizations and still do. But they would say to me as we were first kind of beginning this concept and before, as we were interviewing their colleagues and contacts that, I had, whatever is, they would say, Andrew, I could tell you something about whoever purchased the tickets. I can tell you nothing about who came with them through the year. I mean, and that you're putting millions and millions and millions of dollars into creating these experiences, and from a marketing standpoint, you've built people up to this emotional apex, but then there's no way to reciprocate that for the fan. There's no way of kind of capturing them when you're at that moment. That's really where marketing really takes over, is that you've got them at that. And I've been fortunate to work with some great brands in my career and work with some intelligent marketing people and research people. And I've heard this said a lot, is that, we all make decisions emotionally. We just convince ourselves we make them logically. And that goes in any industry, whether I think where you're buying, you know, pipeline, if you're buying fabric, if you're buying it doesn't matter what industry you're in. There's that human element in the sales process, and you've got to connect with that person, and understand. You got to understand there's a need there, there's a problem that needs to be solved, those type of things. So it's just it's just the right way of doing marketing. And fans today, I think, are much more sophisticated. I think they're demanding more to be involved and to be more engaged. They want to feel part of the community. They want to be recognized. They want to be valued now. And I think that's where we're starting to see people getting a better grip around, how the rewards and loyalty programs work and things like that. Because that's something important to to fans. And as you were saying, it's fandom isn't just community, fandom's identity, but fandom is a lifestyle too. It's my favorite team is just as much a brand to me as BMW or Gucci or Kate Spade or whatever else. It's a brand, and I identify with that brand, and it's more reflective of a lifestyle that I have too. So I think it even goes beyond yes, they're entertainment properties and they see that, but I think they really need to see themselves as more of lifestyle brands.
Yeah, no doubt. And you brought up kind of the fans being, maybe when they want more say, they want to feel more involved, and it made me think of when these teams and leagues, I mean, maybe not leagues, but teams specifically will
Hmm.
do, we're changing our logo or we want a new nickname. And
Hmm.
we saw with the Redskins when they went from the team or
Yeah.
well, they had a middle name, and then no, the
Yeah.
Commanders. I forgot what the middle one was,
Yes, I
Washington
remember
Football
that.
Team or something
Yeah,
like that.
right, right.
And so I think it kind of goes to that point of, these teams, kind of come around to, oh, well, the fans, they want to be involved. They don't just want to come to the
Hmm.
game and then
Hmm.
leave.
Hmm.
We like to be, involved in maybe not the full say, but have partially a say, right, in what the team's doing and things.
Yeah, I think so. I think if for nothing else, as humans, we all want connection. We all want community. I think that's where sports does such a great job of building these bridges across all socioeconomic, you know, classes across, geographic borders, things like that. We obviously saw that with COVID, when sports were kind of taken away from us as far as the communal aspect of it. But um, you saw how important that was in getting sports back and live and getting people together, not just at arenas, but even together at watch parties or at their favorite, local pub or, sports bar or whatever. That's really, really critical. I mean, some people live for that. It's like oxygen for them. And I think we need to better understand that and appreciate it and value that true human connection and human. Don't just look at them as a transaction. We've got to really understand that deeper human emotional tie.
Well said. And it kind of makes me think, about the core, one of the core concepts is kind of this year-round fan, making monetizing that. And
Mhm.
so, from your point of view, what does that look like a year-round fan, monetization wise, as far as the off season? I think about more than I guess in season.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually believe there needs to be kind of a new definition of lifetime value of a fan because that really is based in transactions. But now with the digital era that we're in, people that can produce great content that have, good followings on social that are influential in community, that to me expands a person's value. And they don't need to be a big time influencer. It's still somebody that a micro influencer that can still have great connections, still make an impact, and get the voice out, can help the team in amplifying certain issues, certain events, certain experiences, things like that. But we're seeing this now, and of course with the growth of entertainment districts that they understand that an arena, a stadium is only usually live for a kind of limited number of days throughout the year. But the thing is that fans still want to be a part of it. They still want to be close to it. They still want to have that experience. But it can transcend everything from uh, allowing people to engage in content creation. It can be, a lot of community relation events, a lot of activations that happen. Um, just doesn't have to be, game day or whatever, but just still being out in the community. Of course, we see, how like drafts, the NFL draft, of course, the NBA draft just happened, but the NFL draft has really become an event, but because it is one way of bringing community together. Sports fans want to be close to it and have that kind of game day, experience. So I think I see teams are starting to really expand. I think do some, creative crossovers with other brands, other sports that are kind of happening in the off season. But it's still whatever they can do to allow the fan to continue to have that connection with the team, have a connection with the community of fans, and always have a way of being able to explore and enhance their identity, with their favorite team.
Well, and relating to kind of the fan identity and the fan engagement, have you seen kind of as you've been building, this company and your research, have you seen certain sports or teams be more, driven by fan engagement, the fan community, rather than or opposed to others?
I think there have been a number. I think the most fascinating thing that's happened was certainly, of course, being a Chiefs fan, but seeing the Taylor Swift of that come in with the Chiefs, and it kind of caught everybody off, guard. It's like, okay, now we've got this huge funnel of new fans coming in. What do we do? It caught the NFL off guard. It certainly caught, my Chiefs off guard. But then they really had to look hard and say, okay, how do we handle these new fans that are coming in, and how do we embrace them, make them feel a part, but also bring them along in the funnel from kind of beginning, newbie fan, and trying to move them to that true year-round passionate fan. So there have been some interesting things come. I'll give credit, the Dallas Cowboys here obviously continue to be the most recognized, most valued, brand in sports.
Great point.
But they had a great vision of building the Star in Frisco, which, the training facilities of their headquarters, but the retail entertainment complex hotel around that, because fans want to come and be a part of that. And certainly their stadium tours. But I think they were the first to really kind of understand that fans want to connect year round. They want an opportunity to be somewhere, somehow, to touch it, to be a part of things. I think there's a lot of good sports. I'm really impressed with some of the emerging sports. I got to attend a couple of Major League Cricket events here out in Grand Prairie, Texas, and they did a fantastic job of that game day experience. They know their audience, they know their crowd. Of course, they have a huge broadcast footprint too that goes overseas, because they're bringing in, major cricket stars from overseas. They're coming in, so they understand that. I think pickleball's doing a great job. I had kind of followed the first season of the Pro Women's Volleyball League, and of course, we had a team here in Dallas that won the championship, and that. But they've done a really good job understanding who they are, what they can do, knowing that they can kind of push the envelope a little too. And I think the rise of the emerging leagues is good for two reasons. One, there's this insatiable appetite that people, again, what they want to connect with sport. There's, that being able to come together as a community. But I think it's also being a proving ground for the other league, the major leagues, to see, hey, we can do that. We can see kind of what's happening here, and maybe being able to adapt some of those activations, some of those strategies into our world.
Yeah, well said. In the emerging sports, kind of when you bring that up, it made me think about kind of like the college sector, the college sports scene.
Hmm.
Now it's becoming a little bit more professionalized. And
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on that? Kind of a broad question, but that as a whole it's kind of being more commercialized as a pro, with the revenue sharing and things like that. Do you see kind of a similar, I guess, not even a step down in some cases in the fan engagement ecosystem?
Yeah, I think college sports probably has the greatest opportunity for growth around fan engagement. I think that was one area where kind of loyalty, I don't say it's taken for granted, but it's just kind of
Yeah,
you're just loyal,
yeah,
and that's it. But the market forces now are pressuring them. They have to find new sources of revenue, and I think they're stepping back and realizing that um, there's some assets that we haven't tapped into, and there's obviously some new assets that can be here. Because you can't keep going back to the same major donors over and over again to write a check. And of course, I think with NIL being, a line item in the budget now, that's what, a 20 million hit. I think
Yeah.
that's what the law is doing now. But still, now you've got 20 million that you've got to raise on top of your operations and facilities and marketing and coaches' salaries and things like that. So that's a tough slog. So I think they're really looking hard, and I think they're doing a good job. I think a lot of teams are really starting to grasp this idea of the year-round engagement, that they understand that the fans are part of a community, that they want these ongoing touch points. They want to be connected, because fandom is 365. Well, I think we're just old school thinking. We always think of sports within the confines of of the season schedule, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
it's over. National championship happens, Super Bowl happens, and if NBA Finals happen, season's over. That's kind of it. Not for fans. I mean, fans
Hmm.
are, they're locked in. It's like, well, who are we getting in the portal now? Who are we
Yep.
drafting? Who are we trading for? What's our salary? We have people talking about salary caps, now at Buffalo Wild Wings. It's like, well, when did that happen? But you have sports talk radio, and you've got all the different kind of great uh, you know there's some really great new media platforms out there where fans are just constantly engaged, and I think now people are really starting to understand um, what it means for fans, and that it is a year round identity. It is a year round passion.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking on passions, I wanted to touch a little bit about how long you and the team have been building this passion of Fanways.
Mhm.
What's it been like, building it up, starting this company, and then I believe you kicked off in January of 26. Is that right?
Yeah, Fanwayz actually, we incorporated in December
Okay.
2025. So yeah, we've been building, based on the feedback that we've been given, and talking to folks, and originally kind of had a concept that was more focused on capturing fan content, but as started to really look at where the market was going and where the bigger opportunity was that content is really the gold mine for data. So that was kind of a strategic shift, and what we've done with Fanways. But Fanways is the legacy for me. I'm building it for in honor of my father, who was a minister for 50 years and was who died from dementia. And when I kind of had to talk about his dementia and let people know that he was going through it, because people still he was 15 years into retirement, but people still wanted him involved in family events, celebrations, and things like that, and he just wasn't physically able to do it. And he kind of mentally shut down because he knew he couldn't carry on a conversation or complete a thought. But I had people start sharing memories with me about how he impacted their lives. So initially, I was kind of looking at doing a consumer focused platform to let people come in and collaborate and share memories, not end of life, but just how we live
Right.
life. Because
Hmm.
social media was never really built for that kind of organized storytelling, and letting certain people come in if they're relevant to that story and that kind of thing. And as I was building that, I came across just a wonderful woman who was uh, very involved, very successful in college sports, even up to the associate AD level. Um, I think was started as an SID and moved up, and but was now consulting with pro and sports teams, and she heard me talk about what I was doing on this consumer side, and she told me afterwards. She said, Andrew, this really needs to be a fan engagement platform, because this, from my clients, they're so desperate. They want to know their fans better. They're trying to find new ways to get fans more engaged. So I was like, well, that's interesting, because my dad loved his Oklahoma Sooners, and we shared so many great memories around that growing up. Of course, she loves uh, as he called them, the real cowboys, the Roger Staubach area cowboys and things like that. And we shared many great memories, watching that. Even in his, kind of final months or whatever, OU football was still a big, big, connection for him. He couldn't remember me walking into a room, but he could remember kickoff, for next Saturday, or talk about, past teams and players and things like that. So that was always inspiring. So you certainly understood from a personal standpoint this power of memories and the connections that it has, and kind of how to explore that deeper. So she opened the door to some of her clients. I got to go in and just say, "Here's what I was trying to build. How can this work for you?" And that really started opening the doors. And then I was blessed to be introduced to my co-founders, who were former executives, and they were saying, they were kind of saying the same thing as we've been exploring that, we have these conversations all the time. So they actually went out and talked to, several hundred of their closest contacts. And so we just kind of kept that dialogue going. So this has really been built from the grassroots level, to true, we really wanted to do nothing but listen first. And
Smart.
so that has, being non-technical founders, but that's also given us, good vision about not only the product for now, but kind of a good roadmap, but also the business model, but also kind of being attuned to other factors that could influence, could affect what we're trying to do, and so kind of giving us room to be able to grow and meet the needs that could be coming in the next several years.
Smart, yeah. So as you know, you guys are growing. You built out kind of your roadmap. We're in June now, so a few months into the, I guess, the 2026 campaign, we'll call it.
hmm
What's next for Fanwayz? Exciting projects. Where have you seen maybe some pivots as well along?
Yeah, well, the biggest pivot happened with the data becoming the kind of the key driver. Yeah. Uh, uh, the fan engagement, being able to gather the content, leverage historical content, that type of thing is still valuable because it is an asset. It is something that's helping generate new revenue. Uh, but understanding that the data was really what was, missing, because if you look at kind of what they depend on right now, there's transactional data and there's sentiment analysis, but that's a huge gap because transactional data doesn't
Between?
really reflect all of your fandom. I mean, case in point, obviously I just mentioned huge OU fan. I'm married to a and I want to qualify this, very beautiful, very smart, very brilliant University of Texas fan. Um, and we make it work, but we have a great love for the Red Sox, so that's what kind of can overcome the other passions. Uh, but I buy things for her from the University of Texas, and but I'm the one that gets the emails and the
Oh
text
yes.
for things. They know nothing about her. And even what I get from them is like, again, it's thank you, Andrew, for buying that. It's like, I really don't want to get anything from you, just so you know. I'd let for you know, but I wish you knew about my wife and her story, and then, you could connect with that. So the data was certainly the big pivot, and kind of seeing real world situation there. We're having some really good discussions for pilots coming up in the fall. We're really excited, not only working with, opportunities to work with major D1 athletic departments and pro sports, but really excited about the emerging leagues that are happening because they understand, their fans they're building around the digital native. They understand that what kind of life and community happens there, even though they're also building really good IRL experiences and things like that, and they just have a real passion for trying new things, for testing, but they have I think a real desire about capturing fans and creating year-round engagement, and really trying to know their fans better, because that ultimately ends up greater value for their sponsors. And and themselves. So it's a I I have told people this, and I truly believe it. As much as I'd love for this to be live, you know, a year or so ago, I think the market is much um, much better for what we're trying to do now. I think for adoption of it, I think for people understanding the vision and the real world application of it. I think the market conditions are much greater um, at this point than even a year ago. So just have to believe that the timing is right.
Yeah, and as you know, timing's everything. And
It
where
is.
can the listeners and viewers, where can they find Fanways, socials, websites?
You can find us at fanways.com, and then we're on LinkedIn, Fanways. Feel free to reach out and connect with me. I'd love to have conversations with people that are in the ecosystem and learning from them, sharing what we have. Obviously, we're looking for good strategic partners too, and anybody who's interested to have a discussion. We would be glad to sit down and see how we can get a pilot propped up as quickly as possible because this is something we're passionate about too. I mean, we're living and breathing this. This is something that we really care for. It's really not a business for myself and my team. This is really a mission because we all come from sports. We are all sports fans ourselves. We have our families. We understand the power of memories and emotions. We're seeing this, just what's happened recently. We're talking with the World Cup. We're talking the NBA Finals and the great story around the Knicks and the generational stories that come with that. Of course, my OU Sooners went on an epic run to win the
Yeah,
Conference World Series, and there's so many
got
great
that right.
stories around that. So we live for this. We live this every day, and it has our own personal connection with it too. So, but we always say we just want to solve problems. We're just here to be able to listen and be a good strategic partner with people and help them, achieve what they need to from a business perspective.
Love it, love it, love it. And one last question before we go here is I always like to talk to kind of the founders and people building businesses. Maybe one piece of advice that you use, in day to day life, or something that you keep in mind when you're building for the fellow entrepreneurs out there who are starting businesses.
There's been a lot, but I think the one that I come back to the most is not everybody's going to love your idea, but the right people will. And you just need to keep going. You need to find those. You need to be willing to listen and understand other perspectives. But you're gonna encounter a lot of rejections, and whether that's raising money or selling into somewhere. But there are going to be people that will capture your vision, and that's who you want to find. You really want to be open and see who's out there who you can, because it's all about alignment. So just know rejections part of the game. I mean, athletes go through rejection. We all go through, rejection. Just understand that's part of the game. But keep going. Keep yourself plugged in and see where those communities are, where those people reside that can understand your vision and want to help and support that.
Wonderful. I put the ball on the tee, hit it out of the park,
Uh,
Andrew. I love it. Way to close us out here. And thanks, listeners and viewers. This has been another episode of the Constant Sports Podcast. And for those tuning in, make sure to go check out Fanways on the websites, the socials. We'll have all the links in the bio and things like that, and what Andrew and the team are building at Fanways. And so thanks again, Andrew, for coming on.
my honor, my man. Keep up the great work.